All right, so fight is our next state to examine. So when we're in fight, it's because our autonomic nervous system, our neuroception, has decided that the environment is so dangerous that we have to become very physically assertive to fight off that danger, that threat. And the postures that are involved, this is an extreme case that you're seeing here, is that we have the guy in the kind of yellow-orange shirt trying to pound the crap out of this other guy, and someone else is trying to keep him from doing that. And this is the extreme case. But what I want to kind of show you is that, first of all, if it gets too much, this is what happens. And look at his face. So the face and body postures are really key, as well as the voice tone, but in you knowing whether someone's going to come after you like this. But his face is like a growling tiger, right? And like baring the teeth isn't quite happening now, but it can. You see how he's scrunched up like this, or like this. That's the fight. That's the fight mode of facial expression. So now you would say, how do you translate this to other situations? So even though you may not be able to do this, like in other words, how often would you like to slug someone in the face and can't, because if you do, you'll get in serious trouble. And maybe it's your boss, maybe it's someone else. And, plus maybe you don't want to be the person that slugs people in the face. But if you're wanting to know how this translates into other situations where you can't actually act like this, it'll show up in your body posture anyway. So you'll find yourself making a fist or squeezing your fist, even if it's down here on your side. Your face or someone else's face is going to kind of go, even if you're not in a full attack mode or not letting it be that way, it's going to be kind of like even the eyebrows coming together like that. And if you can't express it physically, then you'll tend to express it other ways. Like maybe you'll be more aggressive when you drive, cut someone off, flip them off. When you're in fight mode, then everything's against you. And also there's this sort of agitated kind of energy. And if you're turning your head, someone that's mad, it's almost like a chicken with a head kind of jerks around like this. That's exactly what happens when people are in fight mode. Because it's a primitive brain state, the motions aren't very refined. They're kind of jerky, like this, because you're afraid you're going to get nailed by something, so you're really kind of reactive. So that's fight mode for you in summary. If fighting off a threat is ineffective, the next automatic response that your subconscious nervous system will turn on is flight. So in flight, there is still active energy, because remember, we're in the sympathetic or the action brain, as I call it, which means that the unconscious motivation is to avoid the threat now, not to confront. So you want to flee and remove yourself from the threat. As you can see in this picture, this woman is active, right? So before in fight, you're going to actively confront. Now you're going to actively avoid. And she is actively running and checking behind her to see if her running away has been effective and whether she can relax. And obviously not yet, because she's still running. Now you might ask, okay, I'm not being chased by a monster in the woods. What about everyday situations? So in everyday situations, it'll be more subtle. For example, let's say you're in a meeting at work and you feel threatened in some way. What you're going to do, even if you don't move away from the situation, is maybe withdrawal like this. So you're kind of like turtling yourself to get away from the threat. And if that doesn't work to give you enough ease, then you might excuse yourself and go to the bathroom. So that would be another way of avoiding the whatever perceived threat in your environment is bothering you. Freeze mode. Freeze is a mix of energies, right? Of energetic influences, a mix of our primitive brain states. So we have an equal mix of sympathetic action to defend against fear and shutdown energy to hide from danger or to pretend you're dead, kind of trigger in the predator that they should leave you alone or that you're dead and not worth eating, right? So now, how does that translate? Well, this is a good example. We have this young girl is frozen, which means that her body is rigid and she's kind of contained like this. She's trying to hide, so to speak. So it's trying to shrink. Your head's pulled down like a turtle pulling in the head to the shell, right? So what we have is rigid body. It's tense, but it's not mobile, right? So now you're immobilized, but you're also very high energy. In this case, you can say, okay, someone's scared stiff, right? That's kind of what that means. Now, how does that translate into your regular life? Well, when you're frozen, let's say you're in a conversation and someone says something that's really offensive or threatening and you freeze up. So what happens is that you can't talk, right? You can't think. These are the things that happen to you and that you can feel or you can see in other people. The face goes deer in the headlights sort of thing, like that. So that's freeze, right? So it really will reduce your cognitive function. And also the neck, here's a real way to tell someone's in freeze. So if they're in freeze but they're trying to move anyway, they can't turn their neck. They have to turn their whole body because the neck just doesn't really move. And people, freeze is associated, very highly correlated, that is, with chronic pain. So a lot of people in chronic pain are stuck in this state most of the time. And that's why they have that sort of rigid stance all the time, partly because they're afraid of hurting more, but also partly because that's the state they're in where they're frozen into a statue. All right, so we're in shutdown now. Shutdown's the most ancient circuit of survival for us, and that's the reptilian brain is another word for it, because our reptilian ancestors were the ones that survived by using this technique. The whole orientation of shutdown is to, shut down all the energy in the system to appear dead to the predator. So the predators tend to not like to eat dead things. So if you look dead and kind of seem dead and respond in a dead way, sometimes they'll lose interest and move on. So there's a number of stages to this. So we can see the man in the picture. He's in the beginning stages of collapsing, right? So you can see he's kind of folding in like a fetal position, which is what we tend to do when we go into this in the early stages. He's trying to protect himself from his threats. Then it can progress from this to the collapse stage, which is what you see in the photo in the shutdown square on the left. In this case, the person's body goes completely slack. They often pass out and become unconscious, or at least mostly, and the face gets completely slack. There's no tension, and it's just like dead. There are times when you'll go into shutdown and you may not pass out because it's not a good situation to do so, or your system doesn't quite go that far. But one of the main aspects is the sagging, slack, slumpy body, right? You're going to slump over into the kind of go into that towards that fetal position. People that have really kind of chronically bad posture and the slumps, sort of curved back, it's often because they're often in this shutdown stage. And this is also the same place you go when you're depressed. So depression is highly correlated with shutdown. And so is disassociation as well. So when you kind of lose touch with your body and where you are, and because you want to go somewhere else, this is where you go. Therefore, if you don't like how you feel, you can change your psychology by changing your physiology, by changing your body posture. Now, what we've just learned is that each of these strategies of survival that we have on this chart have a very specific physiology, psychology, and body posture associated with it. So what I'm proposing here is that when you find yourself doing and thinking things you don't want to do or think, then you can change your body posture as a way of disrupting that subconscious choice, right? So now, within reason, obviously, you can use this strategy in just about every situation. Now, you might need to excuse yourself and go to the restroom and do it, but still. And the thing that I think is so useful about this tool is that it's not expensive, it's not complicated, and it doesn't take a prescription of any kind. There's no drugs or surgery involved, and therefore it's quite accessible and very usable for just about everybody. Another important concept that I taught you in the polyvagal basics was that trauma forms in our bodies when we're overwhelmed beyond our capacity to process what's happening. And what trauma does is it blocks our access to the social engagement system, which is the system we use to connect with other people, and therefore feelings of safety. And the consequence of that is not small, because it means that we can't learn as well, we have trouble with our relationships, and our body is not in the ideal place to heal. So healing is either slow or non-existent. And of course, what we really want is a way to get us back from states of danger to the safety area of our nervous system. And this posture exercise I'm going to teach you will aid in that goal. It will help move your physiology from one of danger and life threat to one of safety and connection. Essentially, this exercise will help your nervous system go into the physiology of play. And play is safe action in a creative environment. And it's in a creative environment where we challenge ourselves to expand. And of course, that's the opposite of what's happening on the right side of the chart, and that's exactly what we want. Here's the posture I'm going to teach you how to imitate. And it's going to support in moving you away from states of danger into states of safety. I like to call it the victory posture or even the tada posture. And what it represents is facing a challenge, now in play, right? So it's not fear, and succeeding. And the reason that's important is because when we perceive ourselves as expanding towards a better part of ourselves, a goal that is not yet achieved in the present moment, and then we get closer to that, it generates all kinds of positive chemicals in our bodies. And dopamine and many other things are generated from success. So what we're doing is we're imitating success. We're modeling it in a posture and breath and so on. And in the next video, I'm going to explain in more detail how that works and the different steps that you need to take to maximize the effect. Because what I'm doing is we're not just changing our posture. I'm actually putting more in this than that. We're going to use our breath, our voice, our visualization, and also changing posture all mixed together to create a bigger physiological and psychological shift that can disrupt whatever unsavory state you may be in at the time. Now, again, I've said before, this is not instant all the time, but I do recommend that you practice it when you don't need it so that you can get better at it. It's more reflexive. And it's kind of like you wouldn't want to only practice martial arts when you're in a dangerous situation. Well, this is no different than that. You want to practice when you don't need it so that when you need it, it's more likely you'll remember to do it and how to do it.